Hey, friends, if you got this part of the video, you've got the live unedited edition. Home Gadget Geeks Thursday night. It's the 8th of August. It's 2024. It's almost 8 p.m. A couple minutes before we're just getting started. 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain, 6 Pacific. Little deep voice tonight. It's been a long day. A lot of talking going on today. If you caught this any other time than that, you've got our live channel on YouTube. Hang tight. We'll get started here in just a second. This is kicking off all the notifications. Folks will be joining us here shortly. So we'll give it a second or two for folks to jump in and join us. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Just me tonight on Home Gadget Geeks. We got a big update from a big event that happened last week. And so it's going to take the night off. But I decided since we'll be taking next week off, we'll podcast live this week. And I'll be back next week or so. If you're listening live, check in the chat room. Be good to see you, Ken. I saw you a little bit earlier. Ken's checking in. Good to see you out there if you're joining us. Let me know you're live in chat. We'll give it an extra second for things to get started here. One of the things we always do on the show, if you're joining for the first time, or maybe it's your 100th time, is always do a pour. Not always, but most times. And we have a local, they're mildly famous, but we have a local place here in town called Glacial Till. They make delicious ciders. And I have a cherry vanilla cider from them. 5.5. Delicious. Poured in a mason jar. Be enjoying that during a little tart. Kind of like a green apple. That's like the best green apple you've ever had. Is that one it's all about. So we'll be enjoying that tonight. No old fashioned. I got to kind of hold it together through the show. So been keeping those at bay. And good to be back this week after last week's little mini disaster. We'll talk about that here as we get started. Again, if you're joining us live, jump in the chat room. Let me know you are there. I saw Ken a little bit earlier. I see a few of you out there. Jump in chat. Let me know you're there. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitch, I guess that's the other one. You can let me know we're live as well out there. I know a couple of you watch on Twitch each week. Thanks for doing that. Lots of screen sharing tonight. So this will be one of those. If you're listening to the audio in the Patreon group, I release the full audio of the whole show to Patreon. This may be the one. This may be a good night to head over and watch the video. So yeah, Ken says 100 hours is no joke. Yeah, it is no joke. To be without power. We'll talk a little bit about that here as we get started. Ken, always good to see you. Yeah, it's interesting. I won't give any of it away, but after 4 or 5 days of no power, we had some things that helped with it. It gave me a lot of good ideas, and I'm going to take some ideas, hopefully, during the show from folks as they listen. Other things I could or should be doing, but it certainly, I'll hold it for the show. Again, if you're joining us live, jump in the chat room so I know you are there. Ken's checking in as well. Ken, thanks for keeping me company while folks show up. We'll get a few more to come in here in just a second. We'll give it a few minutes. Again, I'm drinking if you haven't had these, check and see if you got them in your market. They're a local Omaha. They're in Ashland, Ashland, Nebraska. And Glacial Till is the, I guess they're out in Palmyra, Nebraska. But Glacial Till is the company, and tonight we're drinking the cherry vanilla cider, and it's super delicious. If you haven't had it, this one we picked up from their tap house. They have a tap house in Ashland, not far west side of Omaha. And Sarah, Sammy, and I went out there and enjoyed a charcuterie board or two, and picked up some ciders. It was nice. I thought it'd be good. 5% tonight ought to be a good That'd be a good mix just to keep it going. A couple of you out there, if you're in chat, let me know. I'm going to get started here in just a minute. Appreciate coming out tonight. Appreciate you coming out. Next week I'm off. We have a Japanese foreign exchange student coming for the week, and so we will be a sister city swap between Omaha and I forget the name of the city, to be honest. I should know it. Shioko, something like that. And then you can look it up online for me. And then Uyghur's back. He was supposed to be next week, but then this exchange student thing I forgot about. So we'll plug him in on the 22nd. Ken says, wife approval factor on tech really happened. I'm sure always nice to be the hero. Yeah, Sarah gave me looked me straight in the eyes, like, thank you for making sure we were taken care of. And it wasn't, it was good, much better. We could make it better. That's my thing. It was good. It could have been better. So I have some ideas. All right. Well, if you're not going to check in out there, that's okay too. Hang tight. Appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Let me kick some things off. And we'll probably just, since it's just me, we'll go the 60 minutes and call it good. Maybe a little bit less. All right, let me do this thing. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 618, recorded on August 24th, 2022. 22, what? Who? Where? August, it's not even, the date's not even in there. Oh, hold on. Let me try that again. That was what? Let me try that again. Here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 618, recorded on August 8th, 2024. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here now a very beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska. You'll find out why here in a little bit. Hasn't been that way. It's been a crazy week. Lots of tech involved this week. We'll talk about that here shortly. You'll want to check the show notes. I have a lot of links out there this week. Lots of products that we're going to mention, lots of things that we used. And so check out the show notes, theaverageguy.tv. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers who are faithful every single month. Some of you, and if you can just do it for 1 month, whatever you want to do. If you're finding value in this program and you want to give it back, Patreon's the way to do it. We have one $5 plan. You get on it for a month or stay on it forever. Appreciate you doing that however you want to do that. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. Join the team there, and appreciate those who do that today. Don't forget, rather than work on all the Amazon links and try and trick you with, affiliate links and such, I just put up at theaverageguy.tv over in the right-hand corner, there's a little says this site could have Amazon affiliate links on it, something like that. If you click on that, it'll pass you through to Amazon. If you do that before you go shopping, of course, we'll benefit from it. So rather than have to come over and find it or whatever, I got 1,000 links from prior. Or if you're just heading out to Amazon to buy something, you want to help theaverageguy.tv, head over to theaverageguy.tv, click on that link. It'll pass you right into Amazon. And of course, we benefit from that as well. So thanks in advance for doing that. Big thanks to Mark Robson. He joined me 2 weeks ago. You'll hear a little bit more why I didn't podcast last week. I'd fully intended to, but big thanks to Mark. Hopefully you got a chance to listen to that. If you haven't, go back and listen to it. Make sure you eat before you do that, because it's the big barbecue show for 2024. And he always gets me going. I actually have, afterwards, we cooked some burgers. I realized I probably need to clean out my grill or my smoker. Took the vacuum out there to get it cleaned out, and then we lost power all last week. So didn't get that done, but big thanks, Mark, for coming on. Appreciate it as well. Last Wednesday, I had lined up Jay Franzi to be on the show. Jay, we'll get you back on here another time, a couple weeks, whatever. But I had lined up Jay Franzi, and on Wednesday evening about 5 o'clock, I had gone into the fitness center for an early workout. I had a 5 o'clock call with a friend in Australia. Did that call, came out at 5:45, and where I worked was dark. Not dark because the lights were turned off. Dark because we had the darkest storm I've ever seen come through Omaha on Wednesday night. 100-mile-an-hour winds, which were crazy. We've had storms like that before. This one was just a kicker, and it took down, I think, every tree in the city of Omaha is damaged in some way. In the course of about, I thought maybe I could sneak home in that time, get home, even though it was raining. And as I left the parking lot, it was evident I'm not going anywhere. I could not. It was raining so hard I could not see the road, and so I pulled off a couple times trying to get just for safety reasons. And Joe, good to see you. Joe's checking in. Appreciate you. And Ken's checked in a little bit earlier, so Ken, good to see you as well. Why aren't those links showing? That's interesting. Oh, there they go. Good evening, Joe. Good to see you. So, I was not far from the Omaha Hilton. They have a big parking garage, big cement bunker. And so I thought it might be a good idea to get into the bunker. Bust out, good to see you as well. And Ken, welcome. Appreciate you guys coming out tonight. So pulled in the parking garage and hunkered down for about 20 minutes, watched from the inside of the garage this storm just destroy the city of Omaha. We just got crushed. We're 600, let's say 650, maybe 700,000 people, a million if you count everybody in the whole metro. 220 some people lost power that night, including us. And so, fortunately, we have big trees. I live in a very mature neighborhood, lots of big trees planted in the 60s. So many came down. In our neighborhood, we had a limb break off, pretty good size, take out the transformer on the pole, then take the pole out. So the transformer arced and exploded, basically what it does. And the pole knocked down. Of course, took the lines down with it. We were without power then at that point. Lots of tree damage. Next door neighbor lost their deck to a tree. Big limb came down. We're going to be clearing that one for a while. Brian, thanks for checking in. Good to see you as well. So, if you're a listener to the show for a while, I've been prepping for this event for a while, right? Generator, bought a generator back early pandemic. I want to say like April or May of 2020. Wired it into the house. So I have a 30 amp 220 240 240 volt inlets that comes into the house, splits it into two 120 circuits. Those come down to 4 outlet boxes that are protected by a 15 amp circuit breaker in each. And the intention was to be able to, I've got some fridges and stuff down here in the basement. I can plug those in. I've got a cut over. You just unplug it and plug it into these. Well, pull the generator out, plug the generator in with the 240, the big 240 plug. 240 out of the generator, 240 into the house, and we split into the 120 when it gets here. And 15 and 30 amp circuit split to 15 amps breakers. So, and then I've got 3 long extension cords. Plug those in, run one here to the computer, run one to Sarah's area where she's got her computer and such, and then one upstairs for the fridge and fans and whatever. We don't have a air conditioner backup. It's always, and we've known that. Also, the furnace is not backed up on that. All the computers are, so I could work the next day. So we got everything set up, went out, helped neighbors, cleaned some stuff up, came in, got things running, fans on and such. The main reason I have all these things is really to protect the fridges, right? I just can't, for some reason, I lose my mind when food goes bad or whatever. That just seems to be the worst possible scenario. We can grill to cook, but keeping the food cold or frozen, super, super important to me, and having some fans. Unfortunately, we've also been going through a little bit of heat wave here in the Omaha area. So Thursday wasn't too bad. Let's say 90 Fahrenheit. I'll see if I can put what that is in Celsius on the screen for the recording. Then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 96, 97, and 98 degrees. It was hot. It was very, very hot. So we had to do some things. I'll talk about that more. Almost 5 days without power. Power was returned on Sunday. We were able to get things up and running again. And I think the air conditioner, when it came back on, ran pretty much nonstop till Monday morning. It was, in my mind, it was a backup success, right? We stayed cool. I think the hottest or the warmest the house got was 78, which isn't bad in that kind of scenario. We had two portable air conditioners running. I'll talk about those here in a little bit. But when you run into those kinds of situations, you kind of don't realize just everything it takes to keep stuff going. The generator. Let me show you the generator that I bought, just so you got that. You got some some context on what I'm doing here. So let's bring that up. I'll show that on screen here. This is from Electric Generators Direct. You could buy it anywhere. I bought this one at Lowe's. It's a Q6500, Briggs Stratton Q6500. 5,000 watt generator. It's got the reason they call it a 6,500 is because it can surge up to that much. But generally running at 5K. It's got this QuietPower, which is kind of interesting. A button you push on it, it'll idle down. So it doesn't have gears, but the more, if you're not using a lot of power, it'll idle way down to kind of help you save, save on gas. And it's got a carbon monoxide guard on it. If you're you're not supposed to be putting it in a garage or in a room or any of those kinds of things. But if you do, or if it gets overwhelmed, it will shut itself off. Comes with a handle, very, very portable. $1,200 on the site. I got it for $800 during the pandemic. So I've learned with generators a little bit that you watch for deals on these things. And so you see them happening all the time. Harbor Freight will run those kinds of things. You can see them. Lowe's, I actually had them ship it direct. The first time I bought it, they shipped it. They literally drop shipped it to me and broke the wheels on it. So I had to have it returned. I took it to Lowe's. They ordered me a new one. Ken says, how did the neighbors survive? Did they come knocking? So I went to them, as is my tradition. We were all outside, and I said, "Hey, do you need power?" And they said, "Yeah." And so we ran extension cords up to my next door neighbor, and then 2 doors up to make sure. I said, just plug in your fridge and a fan. Fridges don't take a ton of power. They cycle. They'll run for a while, then they'll stop, and then they'll run for a while, and they'll stop. I could probably do 20 or 30 refrigerators on a generator like this without any problems, right? They'd all be cycling at different times. Freezers are even better because like a deep freeze, they just don't take, once they're frozen, they hold pretty well. So yeah, Ken, that was, I'm always the hero when these kinds of things happen, right? Be able to take a cord to them and say, Bust Out says that's 32.222 Celsius. Thanks for that conversion on that 90 plus, whatever it was. It was hot. It was super hot. Uncle Marv checking in as well, saying hola. Marv, good to see you. So a good, for me, this 5K, pretty powerful. And actually for a lot of people, it'll run most things. Ran in our cases, and I'll show you here, ran 2 air conditioners, ran all our fans, ran my fridge. I have 2 fridges, ran the beer fridge because that's important, right? You gotta have the beer. Make sure the beer stays cold. Hey, you got it, right? It powered the Blue Eddy. I'll talk about that here in just a second as well. So, pretty powerful. Again, a great backup unit for me to have as well. Now, my neighbor ran a cord up to the neighbor up the street or next door. The other neighbor who I would normally run it to actually borrowed a generator from a neighbor. So we had generators running since we were out of power for 5 days. We had we had generators running pretty constantly. And so that's all you'd hear. You'd go out, you just hear generators um, running in the back. So, and you could see on this generator. Let me bring this back up on screen. It's hard to see here. Maybe I can hover to zoom. Yeah, you can see it's got a 240 plug, around one that you can put in there, 30 amp, and then two 110, the regular plug-ins, and then it's got two USB cables as well. Very easy to use. I just changed the oil. It had about 60 hours on it, and I just changed the oil back in the fall of last year, and it was all kind of set and ready to go. Couple things. So again, the setup comes into the house 220, then I run some extension cords up to things and make it work, and that part worked out really well. Couple things though that we used, couple gadgets as we think about and before we get to that, Bust Out says, I love my Tesla Powerwall, but it won't run for 100 hours. You can do it for about 8. And Bust Out, I listen, at the end I'll talk a little bit more about this, but it made me think about a battery. Still would need the generator to charge the battery. Yeah, your batteries aren't going to get you through some of those. So that's not always that's not always a consideration. Then he says, then again, we don't have giant town destroying storms in the Bay Area. You just don't. I grew up in San Jose. We just never had those kinds of things. A power outage was pretty rare, and if it was, it usually come back up pretty fast. Couple things, couple small gadgets. Just one that I was kind of glad I had. One is just kind of a standard USB powered flashlight. I think everybody should have one of these. Plug in USB charge in the back. It will do different. It'll do different. It'll go super bright, way up to it's showing that on screen. From super bright on its way down, it'll do flashing. It's just good to have. This has got a little clip on it, so you can clip it on your belt or whatever you're wearing. Just good to have generally. And I carried this around quite a bit, especially early on as I was setting stuff up. I always leave that at the desk so it's accessible, but just good to have. Don't have to worry about batteries. Keep it charged. It actually lasted me for 3 days before I needed to charge it again. And I was using quite a bit. One LED cell in there that does the job. I think I paid 20 or 30 bucks. It was a Best Buy essential, if you can see that. But I bought it there. I actually was going to use it when I went walking in the dark. I stopped doing that, so that I didn't do that anymore. But having a USB powered flashlight, super helpful. Sarah picked up a few of these lantern style. They're regular batteries. You could put rechargeable batteries in them. But she picked these up. They're La Pro LE lanterns. There's Chinese versions of this or whatever. You just pull them out, LED comes on, and then you can use them. When you don't need them, just turn it off, right? Pull it, easy to find. We keep 4 of these around the house. You can hang them on things if you need to in places. Can they take regular batteries? And I think we went through a couple sets as we were doing these, but just handy to have until you get things turned on. I leave one of these over by the plugins. We leave a couple upstairs, just kind of get handy. And they don't look terrible, just sitting around. We kind of leave them in some strategic places just in case we lose power. There's sometimes at night too, where I don't want to turn on all the lights. So you just grab this thing and carry it around. It's kind of cool. You can take them outside if we're going to be outside around the fire or such. So good way to do that too. I think these are 20 bucks. So you can get them in a pack. I'll look them up, put some show notes. I didn't look up the flashlight in the end of this. So I'll look these up when we get in there. One of the other lights that I really liked that I never would have thought of before, and I got this as part of a Black+Decker set, but it was a flashlight that it's kind of a work light that comes. This one's Black+Decker. DeWalt has them. Makita has them. Put the battery on the bottom. And it actually, I left the battery on all night one time. it's a 20-volt battery that goes on the bottom, and these LEDs just sip the light, so they don't run out of power very fast. One of the things I found handy, because you could move this light, is with the battery in it, giving it weight on the bottom. When I was taking a shower, I could put this up on the topper. You know, I have a little cabinet on top. You could put that shining up against the ceiling, and it would light up the bathroom. It was just a nice for a shower. It's just a nice light to have to do it. It came with a set of, I think I got a, electric screwdriver and in a small circular saw. I think this came with it, but I found these to be handy. And so if you don't, from a backup light standpoint, if you've already got batteries for your drill or for your circular saw, whatever, right? If you can buy a light that shares those batteries, chances are during an outage, you're not going to be doing major construction. So you can take the batteries that you have. You got the battery infrastructure there, and you can use it for the light. So not a bad idea to have that on hand as well. So those were three. Those were kind of three lights that we had used, and that worked out really well. I don't think I'd buy anything different for that. My son, let me get these out of the way because I'm going to knock him down. I almost thought about wearing the headset because I was going to be moving things around so much. My son, John, number 2, they had a during the last heat wave, their air conditioner went out, and he went down to Menards. Tony mentioned that I mentioned that a lot on the show. And he picked up one of these portable units. Let me show you that here on screen. So this is a Pelonis, I think is how they pronounce that. They're all made by the same company, but while they were waiting to get their air conditioner fixed, he's in an apartment. He picked up one of these 12,000 BTU. Now these are pretty efficient, and they run on 110 or 115 voltage. Standard plug-in here in the United States. And what you do then is it's got an out in the back, sucks air in from the room, chills it, and then you have an exhaust fan that goes out to the window. So when our power company said, "Hey, it's going to be a while before we get to you," I called him on Thursday, or was it Friday? I think it was Thursday. I said, "I think we're going to need to borrow that air conditioner," and he said, "That's fine. I'll come over. 350 is this one. We'll have to rebate. Let's just say it's $400." And but portable, you can move it around, move it room to room, open the window, put a slider in, put the tube out on the and it exhausts the hot air to the outside. And we actually use that for, and that's actually was Thursday, sorry. So Thursday morning or Thursday at noon, I went over and picked it up right after lunch. We installed it, put it in the living room, and we're using just this unit for the first, day or so, day and a half. But with the projected time for them getting back to us, not a bad, not necessarily this isn't what I wouldn't buy this, to be honest, for me. I'll show you what I did buy. But for some folks, smaller rooms, like it kept a single room really comfortable. And it's easy. You don't have to install anything. You just set it up in the room and take the hose. It's got a setup that'll go in a window and it vents it out. So in a pinch, these are pretty handy. It's got a collects water. So from time to time, you got to take it out and drain it. They have a hose that comes with it that'll drain it. So you could set it up to be, just the water would be constantly coming out. But worked pretty well for us for that first night. But as it started getting hotter, I was thinking, this isn't going to work. These things, I want to say somewhere between maybe 800 and 1,000 watts of power, and they just continuously run, especially in these situations. Not like they're going on and off because it's pretty warm. But in a pinch, not a bad unit. I'd always wanted to try one of these. It's got a remote, pretty fancy. But the one I looked into, ended up buying was this, and this is a Midea, but the Mr. Cool brand is the one I bought at Menards, even though this one has that name. Same thing. They're all made by the same people. But this Mr. Cool, this is a 10,000 BTU. Again, it's 115 volt. The cool thing about this is super quiet. The most I could that portable unit, the most I could get to come out, even in its coldest setting, was about 58 degrees, 56, 57, 58 degrees. This unit would go all the way down on the settings, would go all the way down to 60, and I could get almost 50, right around 50 degrees coming out of it on the super hottest of days, which was super nice. Fan was a little more powerful. This one is like a window air conditioner, except it doesn't sit in the window. I mean, it sits in the window, but it's got this, you can see from the picture, it's got this slot where the window comes down, and then you just block up the two sides. It comes with a base. It's easy. It's fairly easy to set up, and worked really well with the windows. Now, I needed a window with some clearance. The very first window I put it in would only open up 11 inches, and I needed 13 inches. So I was like, oh my God, I didn't buy this thing only to not have, because I measured my windows. They wouldn't go up far enough. They were big enough, but they wouldn't go up far enough. Did find a set of windows that were big enough, put that in there. This really saved my bacon. And it's it saved my bacon, one, because it was the second unit. We put it out in the living room. It's super efficient. So it runs at about 600 watts, which is kind of nice. Like, and it was cooler. Like, so it was just a better unit. I think in the future, I may get two of these. I may get another one to have on hand in case something like this happens again. I'd put it in the other window and run them off the same generator. Now, I may do something where I don't have to do that again, but this unit in a pinch worked out really, really well for me. The crazy thing is it's Alexa enabled, right? It's A Lady enabled. So it's got an app. So I could turn it on coming home. You can set scenes. You can set it up to home automation. I really hadn't put two and two together thinking about a window air conditioner having home automation capabilities to it. But this one would work. Fairly decent app. It'd be one of those kinds of things where you can turn it down, and then on your way home, you can turn it up on your way home. It's got some proximity sensors. It's as you get closer to it, it'll turn itself on. Some things we see in the thermostats, and a really good, efficient unit. I was super impressed with it. I think if I was buying anything cooling and it needed to be a window unit, this would definitely be my choice. I mean, this passes up. Now, there's a 10,000 BTU and there's a 12,000 BTU. I haven't seen anything bigger than that. You can get window units or built-in units that are bigger. So if you need more cooling, you better check your space, right? Just to see how it works. But it says it's out of stock there. But I think I sold. Oh, by the way, when I went, I actually bought the 12,000 unit at Menards. I got there and it was not available, even though it had shown on the website. I went down to the aisle where these were, and this one 10,000 BTU unit was left. I snagged it, and I felt lucky that I did. 430 was what it was. I felt myself pretty lucky that as fast as things like this were going, that I got my hands on it. So two air conditioners running for 3 days. We kept the house at 78. Wasn't super pleasant, but it was better than the 90 it would have been if we wouldn't have had any kind of cool. I don't think we would have made it, just to be honest. we would have had to go to do something different if we hadn't got that done. But I thought it was super cool that these newer air conditioners have home automation built into them. And I haven't checked it all out. Like I can't, I haven't tried to get it into my home assistant yet. Any of those kinds of things. I think I'm going to leave it in the window for the rest of the summer, just in case. And as we get into fall, I'll take it out, leave it as a backup. I question, do you need a backup air conditioner? Well, apparently you do. And I think I may figure out, maybe something I install in the summer is just to, it's super efficient. I could plug it into the wall. There's a outlet right underneath it, and I could use it to augment the, on really hot days, set the thermostat on it and let it help out the other air conditioner that we have. Need to do some more testing on the wattage on some of that just to kind of make sure. But we got that we got that done. If I had to do this again, like I said, I may buy another one of these. If this was the way I was going to do it in the future, I'd probably want to have at least two. One of the things that was really hard, you get part of when we had a bunch of fans going, you get part of the house going, and then you try to push cold air to the other part of the house. It doesn't work very well, just to be honest. Um, we even had the portable unit in the back bedrooms trying to blow air out into the other rooms. It was marginal. Sammy got the cool room for the 2 or so evenings that we had that available, 3 maybe. And so it didn't bother me that much. I always had a fan blowing on me, but so those were kind of cool finds, and something with the air. One of the things, because we had so many trees down, and I've shown these to you before, but because we had so many trees down, I have battery operated I have a battery operated chainsaw that I use. And one of the things, Kevin had put this in our Discord group. He'd shown a picture of it. He said, when I first started talking about this, didn't think it'd be that great, but the more I use it, maybe the better it worked. But I bought one of these BLACK+DECKER. Again, I stick with the 20 volts because I got a bunch of batteries for them. But this is this alligator chainsaw. It's got a chainsaw on the inside, and it's got these alligator clamps that come around it for branches that are 2 or 3 inches or smaller. Man, it's really handy to get into branches and just start chopping them with the chainsaw and cutting through those things. I use this a bunch, help some neighbors clear yards with this. Super handy. Sips on the battery, does a nice job. You can see 140 here. And I think this is just, does it come with the battery? Yeah, the 140 comes with the battery. You get the tool for just 85. That shows you how much these batteries are. But I bought it because I didn't have the right tools when we were clearing some trees at my son's house a while back. And so I bought this. I also have, I love this thing. The good thing is anybody can operate it. The kids can do it. I'm not a big fan of chainsaws because they're just so dangerous, but this is super safe, like just incredibly safe. The kids could do this with it. It's not going to dig into their leg or anything. So I do recommend one of these. They're super cool. One of the other than the chainsaw that I bought years ago. Now I shouldn't say years, but I bought this version, I'm going to say 5 years ago, maybe 4. And it's been a great little chainsaw, 12 volt. It's good for light use. You're not cutting logs with it, but it's good to cut limbs or in a pinch, cut around things. Probably up to 5 or 6 or 7 inch limbs. It stopped working. I used it a lot, and I'm going to have to take a look and see why it stopped. In this case, this tool, the tool only 180. I guess there's let's see, I could get it as much as 140. But again, I'm not a big fan. I don't want to keep a chainsaw around. Now my neighbor across the street's got a bunch, but worked for me. It stopped working. I'll have to see. I think I probably had it too long for it to be under warranty. I may have to pick up another one. But that was handy to have. Actually, I keep this in my car from time to time. If I'm going somewhere, I'm going to have somebody that travels well. It's easy to take around. Then the other thing I bought at the end of the season last year was and again, I'm buying these versions because they all work with the 20 volt batteries, but I bought this pole saw, and I find this to be really, really handy, right? Long extension, 15 feet or so. It's got a chainsaw on the end, allows me to, from the bottom, get to branches that are high up and trim those, or from the roof, trim branches that might be hanging over the roof. Handy to have. All handy tools to have. They're heavy, and you got to have a little bit of strength on this one. I recently picked up the trimmer version of this, to trim bushes. And instead of, for the trimmer, the mechanism that moves the blades is actually on the end. Man, that thing is heavy. And so it's not balanced as well. It's a Black+Decker version as well. But it's handy. We've got some bushes that I need to trim that are up high. So the trimmer works a little bit better for like bushes and stuff. Where the pole saw showing here, this will actually get up in there. You can put that up in the tree, kind of lean the saw against the limb, pull it, it'll cut right through it. The weight of it will pull it through. Just be careful, make sure you're not directly under the branch when you're doing this, right? That branch will come straight down on you, so be careful when you're doing it. You might want to wear a helmet or some of those kinds of things. Um, uh, yeah, Ken says, wait, you might want to, why are they, there it goes. Hold on. Ken, there he goes. We're just going to skip over that quote. I keep a chainsaw in my car. Yeah, from time to time, I did keep it. I was collecting wood. Oftentimes, people will leave. They'll be clearing trees and such, and so they'll leave those on their curb, and I'll go collect some of those just so I have some wood to burn. So I just keep it in the car for a while. That's why, Ken. Ken's Uncle Marv said, "Got here late. How many people are still without power?" Let's see. Today, so we'd be going on a week. Right now, a week and a day. There are a few. Yeah, there are a few. A couple thousand, I think, in some really bad spots where trees really took down power lines, and they're having to really work at that. So, not many. Most we're about in the middle of it. We got power back on day 4, let's say at the end of day 4 or the beginning of day 5. This week it's been slowly coming back. They got half the customers back up in the first 24 hours. They got the easy ones, and then it was some work to get it started. So those were some cool tools. When it comes to chainsaws, I don't like gas. I don't want to keep. I don't. Yeah, gas works great for the generator. I don't like having to keep all that stuff around for chainsaws, and I'm not necessarily sure I'm super comfortable with operating chainsaws, gas chainsaws. Just super powerful. You can really get hurt with those. But those 3 items all use the same battery: pole saw, chainsaw, and the alligator clippers. And so they all interchange. It's, for me, that's been a good trio of tools to have to kind of work on some of the bigger limbs, right, that we have around the house, the trees, just kind of keep them trimmed up. I was fortunate at the beginning of the season. I had some limbs taken down that I think may have come down if I had not taken them down in the spring. So I might have dodged a bullet on that one. Yeah. So Ken says, "Oh, so it's 220,000, not 220 without power." Yeah, 220,000 customers without power. Yeah, they got half of them, 110,000 in the first 24 hours. But the areas like ours, the tree came down, hit the transformer exploded. They heard it all around the neighborhood, and then hit the pole and took the pole out. So we had to get a new pole and a new transformer. That's why it took a while. They were here a good 6 or 7 hours putting that piece in. And no, there were a lot of there's a lot, and there's still a lot of folks. There's still a few who are without power today. The Blue Eddy was a champ. You guys heard me talk about this earlier. I picked up as a battery backup. I recommend, whether you live in the Bay Area and you never have disasters, or you live somewhere where you do, this AC 180 Blue Eddy has been just perfect for me. With all the things running, like right now, I'm running at about 400, let's say 450 watts with everything that's going on, all the monitors, all the computers, all the laptops, all the Mac Mini, the Unraid server, everything I have at about 450 watts. And it's got a 1800 watt limit. It'll go up to a 2700 watt peak. And when the power went out, last thing I worried about was the computers because they were still running. And when I came in, it was like, you got 2 hours. So I had plenty of time to set things up, get things going, get the generator plugged into it. So basically, I use it as a UPS for the computers and then plug the generator into it when I have time and charge it back up. It's been a great system. It's great UPS. I eventually had to shut down. By the way, this 579 is a great price. I paid 799 for it. And there's some right now. This 579 was like the Amazon deals day, whatever that was in July. I think it was that price then. There's a little bit of a power, price war going on right now. So maybe not a bad time to check this out. I'll leave the Amazon link in the show notes, or you can search for it on Amazon. Click through my link if you do. I can't recommend this thing enough. For most people, get you a couple hours of backup on if the power goes down. I actually ended up plugging in my Nespresso because that thing runs about 1,000 watts when it's running. Like, you start to realize when your power's out, yeah, thanks, Ken. He says Prime Day deals. So thank you. You kind of don't realize just how much power everything draws until you've got limited amount of juice, right? And so, you think your stove, of course, that's on a 240. That's on 240 anyways, or your dryer, that's 240. Air conditioner in most cases, the big one that we have out here, it's going to be on a 240 circuit. It's going to draw a lot. But some of those other things that you have, if they have any heating plate in them, any of those kinds of things, it takes some juice. I was a little surprised to see when that Nespresso machine turned on, because it heats up the water, right? So, and it heats it up fast. So about 1,000, 1,200 watts. I found it much easier to plug it into the Blue Eddy and let it run from there. It would give it better power than you would plug that and then let the generator charge the battery back up. Just be smoother power for it. It was jumping all around. The generator was going up and down when it was running. But boy, I can't recommend those Blue Eddies enough. They are pretty great, and it makes a great UPS, and it would just work like a charm. As the week went on, the computers were heating the place up, and we were struggling to cool it down. So I ended up shutting the gaming rig down. I shut the Unraid server down. I turned off my backup for the what's that box called? It's slipping my mind. That got turned off. I tried anything that was generating power, I tried to get rid of. Can you hear Sarah's watching something behind me and making a racket? Sometimes she forgets it's Thursday night and that I'm trying to do a podcast, but we'll kind of let that go. So sorry, you'll just have to put up with the race car screeching going on behind me. So I ended up shutting all those down and running one monitor and the Mac Mini. Mac Mini runs at about 40 watts and the monitor runs at 80. So both super cool. And at the end of the day, it wasn't a big draw on the battery. Could have gone for, I probably gone for 6 or 8 hours off of that. So if you haven't checked that out, I can't recommend that enough as being a UPS backup for you. And then if you do get in a pinch, you can plug it into a generator and charge it back up. I always just kept the generator on it in most cases. So I was running pass-through battery or pass-through power to it. It wasn't even coming off the batteries. It was just coming off the generator. But that worked like a charm for me as well. Let's see what else I did. I did lose. Not only did the chainsaw break during this, but the parity drive on my Unraid server for some reason, when I brought everything up on Sunday evening, was putting things back together, the parity drive on Unraid was gone, and so it was a 2 terabyte drive. Your parity and Unraid is your largest drive. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just upgrade it for the future. So I grabbed one of the 4 terabyte drives, put it in, 13-hour rebuild, and then it was back online and ready to go. Don't know if that was because of the power or not. I shut it off twice without really shutting it down. You know, I pushed the power button. I was in a hurry to do something. I could have messed it up. But easy fix. It did mess up somehow my Home Assistant instance, so I had to rebuild that, put that back in place. But those were kind of the only two problems that I really had during that time, and those were both fixable. All right, couple thoughts on what would I do in the future. Before I do that, Ken or Brian says, for a bad situation without power, thank goodness this happened now with this type of tech, so you could keep the units running. Yeah, I mean, this all stems from 6 years ago. We had a tornado go south, and it took out the power for, I think we were out for 6 days, and I didn't have a generator, and I just about lost my mind. And so I was like, I'm not going to get caught in that situation. You know, kind of gets you thinking. Bust Out was talking about a battery wall. I thought about that. You start thinking maybe solar with battery backup type thing. Ed Sullivan's got a Generac. That's a whole house solution. Somebody comes in, sets that up. You're on a service plan. That's the Cadillac or Tesla of backup situations. And I even kind of thought through of like, maybe I should get a second generator. I'll run them in parallel. We used to do this all the time in the military. I was a generator, by the way, I was a generator mechanic when I was in the military. It's what I did. So you could run them in parallel. And then I've got some flexibility. You know, one of the things that'd be nice is to be able to lend the generator out. Maybe I have power and my kids don't. I have 5 kids living here in town, and I'd like to have some flexibility. You have a Generac, or you have batteries, or you have solar. You can't really take that stuff down and take it somewhere, where a gas generator, you really could put it in the back of the Outback, take it to the kids, let them borrow it, let the friends borrow it, let a neighbor borrow it. I've used it in the shed or for the shed from time to time. So I do like having the flexibility of not having a giant generator, but there are some drawbacks to not having a whole house, right? You can't run your furnace. Well, I did it at the end of the day. I rewired my furnace with a plug so I could plug the HVAC system in. Didn't run the air conditioning unit, but it would run the fan in my furnace, not with the furnace on, just the fan running, so that you could vent the house, right? You could get some air circulation. That was kind of helpful. Now that's ready to go. In theory, I still need to test this, but in theory, in the winter, because we're on natural gas, I would be able to heat the house now on the generator, right? So that's ready to go for if we had a big snowstorm or the power went out or lines went down or whatever. In theory, I could heat the house pretty well, because that doesn't take, you just turn the fan and the fire, the natural gas comes on. So it's ready to go for that. I think what I'm going to do now, I'm going to leave the system in place the way I have it, with it coming in 220 coming into the house and quartz. But I think I'm going to rewire it. I may have an electrician do it. I may do it myself. It's not that difficult. But I may put a connect box on the back of the house, run a line in, and put one of those interconnects. Here, I'll show you what those look like. This is the box that you attach to the outside of your house, and it puts, this is where the plug goes in. The 30 amp plug goes in for it. But on your breaker box in the house, you need to install this generator interlock. Basically what it does is, when you're taking power from the grid and that breaker is on, it's got a metal piece over the generator fuse breaker, the breaker that you would use to bring power in from the generator, so that you can't have both grid and generator power going at the same time. Or in this case, if the grid's power is down, say the grid is down and I'm running a generator, if I have my fuse box, if I have the breaker box open, it'll run power back up the line. And if somebody's working on the line and they think it's not charged, well, of course, that will hurt them. So you need to set this interlock so it keeps the breakers. If one is on, the other can't be on, and vice versa. And these little kits, these are $20 kits, but you'd install this in your box, and then you bring the power in from the generator, hook it into. You would need a 30 amp fuse in there to do it. You hook it into that 30 amp fuse, and that's charging. That's coming in. We generally think of the fuses as going out, right? The power's going out, but in this case, you're using it to keep the power in. And that power from the generator would then come in through that fuse and charge the box, make it have power, and then that could feed the whole house. Now, a 5K generator, not going to power the whole house. It's just not big enough. 10 would be about the minimum. You'd be stretching it, but you can turn breakers on and off to select what you want working or not, or choose not to use devices, or charge the rotate devices around. You might run your air conditioning all night and then turn that off, and then turn that breaker off and turn the breaker on for your stove, and so you can cook, like if you want to do it that way. If you needed to dry clothes, that could be the same thing. You could turn those on and off to use the clothes dryer on that circuit. So I think I'm going to do that next, and then think through. The other thought is I may pick up a 10 or 12K multi-fuel. So when in the generator space, you can kind of fuel them 4 ways, right? You can fuel them with gas. That's the most common. You can fuel them with diesel. The military does that. And the bigger ones, the real big generators, are generally, not always, but generally diesel fuel. You can use natural gas, or you can use propane. Of course, natural gas and propane. Natural gas is nice because a lot of people have it in their home, and you can just pipe. You can pipe that in and have it available and ready. A lot of these Generacs run off natural gas, so you don't have to have a tank around. Doesn't ever run out. Just turn it on and away it goes. Right? Natural gas is nice. Propane, similar. Propane can sit for long periods of time. Gas and diesel not so bad. Gas is really bad. Gas starts getting bad 3 to 6 months, depending on the conditions. Yeah, you can put stuff on it and maybe give it a year or so. But gas, of course, is the easiest to get, right? I mean, diesel's in a lot of cases is easy to find too, although diesel's expensive. So you're going to pay another $1 or $2 a gallon for it. So there's all these, like, well, do I want to do it that way? With the tri-fuel, I haven't seen where they have all 4 quad fuel. I haven't seen those. But tri-fuel, propane, natural gas, gasoline. You can kind of pick and choose what you have. I definitely would run it natural gas. The other drawback to that is the power is best. You get the most efficient, the most power out of gas. That just runs more watts per burn, right? Then natural gas, then propane. And so there's also some drawbacks. You buy a 12K generator, let's say a 10K generator. It's going to give you 8K on natural gas and 6K on propane, right? Then you're kind of back to like, well, maybe I should get a 12K so I get a little bit more, And you think, then you think, well, it's only happens so often. I'll just go get gas. Well, during this downtime, I go get gas 3 times a day. I got a couple gas cans. I got a big 5-gallon one and a 2-gallon one. It's going through about 65 or 70 bucks in gas a day, filling those up. So there's there are these trade-offs. I'm going to wire it up so I can put whatever I want on the outside of the house. I'll manage that with what I have. I may pick up a second generator. Like I said, it's kind of nice to have them. About $2,000 for that big, I think it's a 10K or a 12K tri-fuel generator that would run most things. And I could have the air conditioner running at all times. You have to be asking me the question, Jim, is it really worth it all for this, just for something that happens once every 4, maybe 5 years? Well, until you've gone through it, you don't know. Yes, it's worth it. It's worth every second of it. Sitting in your house when your house is 90 degrees is horrible. It's terrible. You'd think, oh no, it's just like being at the beach. Yeah, but when you're at the beach, you go someplace else and you get cool again. You're sleeping in this, you're living in it. It's pretty brutal. And so, well, think through some of this stuff. Probably $200 to install the disconnect on the outside and get get the panel all secure, so that's working right and safe, right, from that standpoint. Then I'll probably do some testing with the current generator I have just to see what I can run. And then think about a second. Do I go with the second same size and run those in series to get the power that I need out of it? That's a diversification of power. That way, if one goes bad, I've got a backup, right? Have one type of thing. Or, go with a bigger one and just run one to do it that way. I like doing this, so it's kind of fun for me to think through these scenarios and to be prepared. I Some would say that's a prepper. I've never considered myself that way, but I do really like helping my neighbors in these kinds of situations, right? One of the neighbors, the tree fell on their deck, tore the power right out of their house because it hit the power coming in, ripped it right out. I thought they were going to be without power for days, because days more than us, because they're going to have to get an electrician in. Fortunately, the company that was fixing all these power lines is also an electrical company. And so there were guys there that could do that. So before they energized the neighborhood, they made sure their electricity was hooked back up again. So they were set. But I was fully intending, I had gone out Sunday morning, shut the generator down, changed the oil really quick, put new oil in, fired it back up. It was the 100-hour service with the full intent of wheeling that thing up there so they'd have power. I don't want anybody losing their food or their minds on this. And so again, it's nice to have some in this area. A lot of folks, this is an area we're not often ready for. And as much as we lose power here, and I think we're maybe moving into a situation, where this could become just more common. Who knows? But it's an area it's easy to be prepared for. It's nice to have. I've also, I've thought through the whole house battery backup. Blue Eddy's got a solution that could do most of the house. About $4,000 to do that, and you kind of go, huh. I'm still charging those things off a generator, but the generator, you could run that, and then generator would charge up the batteries. If I was going solar and doing it that way, where I could have the full time off the batteries and then solar would charge during the day and maybe pull from the grid to charge at night. Yeah, so you take advantage of the solar or whatever. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. I'm thinking even if I do this interlock kit and buy the most expensive generator, I'm in it for $2,000, maybe 2,500, let's say, for it. So that's kind of the solution I'm kind of leaning towards now, and we'll run with it. So lots of gadgets in there. Super impressed that this air conditioner had home automation capabilities to it, an app, and you could connect, and a lot of things you could do with it. So super impressed by that. A little bummed that I broke my chainsaw in the process. Kind of cool to be able to help the neighbors with power. And then I'm kind of, and I'll say energized, because that's a word that we used a lot over the last couple of days. Kind of energized to take it to the next phase of backup power. I have that available, and see if we can't get the whole house going. Couple comments on the way out. Uncle Marv, if you've got questions, throw them in chat. We'll stay for just a few more minutes, and then I'll wrap it up here. Uncle Marv says, looking at the Anchor Solix home backup kit with solar panels, about $5,600. and Uncle Mars down there in Florida. Probably some good sunshine down there to run those panels. And so yeah, not a bad way. And actually, um, not a bad thought for this kind of backup where these panels that they make oftentimes are not intended to be full-time panels, right? When you buy these panels with these batteries, they're kind of intended to be put out for your camping or whatever. Well, that's actually a perfect scenario for those. Like, I hadn't thought about it this way, but to have a whole bunch of those portable panels that you throw out on the driveway for this kind of situation and pull solar power in that way. You wouldn't want that out there full time. And I wouldn't want, you wouldn't want it out there full time. That wouldn't be very practical, but throw them on the driveway, tip them up, get them set, have a whole driveway full of, that'd be appropriate. That's now sun goes down at night and you need some power, but it's not, Uncle Marv, not a bad way. Gets me kind of thinking to have a whole bunch of those. They're fairly inexpensive, those solar panels, and solar panels are coming down in price too. Like I said, there's a little bit of a price war going on with these batteries. So maybe something, the AC 180's got a solar in, and it comes with the connectors to do it. So I have to think through, would you just have a whole stack of them ready to go for a situation like that? I don't know, some thought. Joe, this is a very valid comment. At some point it makes sense just to get a hotel room, right? Yeah, except what I hate is then I have to empty out. You have to spend some time emptying out your fridge, emptying out your freezers, taking them somewhere. Right? Otherwise, all that, and like I said, food spoiling drives me crazy. We were hearing stories of folks the last time this happened where they just left, they fled and went to a hotel room, didn't do anything with their house, came back 6 days later and had to throw away the fridge. The smell was so bad because it's hot, right? So yes, actually my neighbor 2 doors up needed to get some work done. They just weren't going to mess around with it. Started the generator, plugged in the refrigerator and freezer, and then went to a hotel. You can do that as well. I mean, that's probably the way to do it, just to be honest with you. Although, I like trying to figure it out. And that may also be true. May not have been an option with such widespread outage. Yeah, with 220,000 customers, that's not people, that's customers. So more people. The hotels were jammed up, right? Everything was kind of jammed up those first couple nights as folks were fleeing, trying to get someplace cool. And so it's a good thing do you spend $2,000 or $3,000 to save? Well, hotels aren't cheap right now. I mean, you think we probably spend $150 to $200 a night. Stack it up on 4 nights, all of a sudden you got $800, right? Maybe you're at 1,000 if you're going to think about it that way. You can get a battery backup for that, or you can get a generator for that, right? And stay. So good, super good. I'm not trying to argue with you, Joe. It is a good point. I do like to stay. I want to be here to, in this case, there's 3 of us. For some families, that may not be a practical option to drag all the family to a hotel room. So I thought of that. And Uncle Mar says plus food. Yeah, I thought of that indeed. So good point, though. Good point. Ken says super cool using your knowledge of the military to go to the next level. Yeah, than having the current one as a spare loaner. Yeah. No, it would. I wouldn't mind having a good 10 or 12K that could easily run things here, and then having a backup one as well. Just nice to be prepared, right? Take it places, whatever. Or some battery solutions that could do something similar. Have to think through that as well. There are some cool things you could do, like we're talking. I mean, maybe have enough battery on hand and some panels. You get those on sale or whatever. Throw those out in the driveway. I have a double wide, 3 cars long driveway. We had a lot of driveway space. and it was hot and the sun was shining. We could have made a lot of solar power. Huh. I'll have to think about that. I have to do the math. Every time I do the math on those things, especially solar, it never pays to do it full time in Nebraska. Power's too cheap. It's 11 cents. It's 11 cents a kilowatt hour, and it never pays for itself to do solar panels on the roof or any of those kinds of things here. You're on either coast. Power's a little more expensive. Maybe that starts paying off, right? Or makes more sense. It's just harder. But in an emergency, maybe that's a better option. You got me thinking. You got me thinking indeed. Well, thanks for listening to my rambling on this. Fun. I definitely got the interlock kit coming, and we'll probably put that in this fall. It's glad I got the furnace wired up to be backed up as well. And so it was a learning experience, and it was better than it was the last time, which I think is the key to all of this. The cool part was Friday I could work from home, keeping the generator running, to keep everything running here in the studio, and I didn't have to. I mean, I could do it, and I did it, and now I know. Okay, well, I can work from here. I can at least get that part done, and it's good to know. And you just don't know. You don't know the next time. Maybe it'll be a week. Hope not. Maybe it'll be 10 days. I don't know. But either way, hopefully this has been helpful to you in some way. You think through it, think through your own situation, and kind of say, well, how can I be better prepared based on what I need and what's important to me. So just a reminder, Mike Uyghur, I'm off next week. So if you're joining us live, no show next week. We have a sister city cohort from Japan coming, and we're hosting one of the students from Japan. Oh, it should be fun. My daughter-in-law is from Japan, so it'll be fun to have them over the weekend. They're coming on Wednesday, and so I want to give them full attention while they're here. So we're off next week, the 15th, and then the returning Thursday, I'll be back. Uyghur will be here for the night to catch us up on all things that are going on. So if you're listening to the podcast version of this, that'll be the next one. That's available for you coming up here soon. If you want to join us in the conversation in the Discord group, and maybe you want to know what's going on or know when I'm live or some of those kinds of things, have these conversations, head over to theaverageguy.tv/Discord. Leave a message, homegadgetgeeks.com. There's a little microphone button. You can leave a 30-second message. Just email me, jim@theaverageguy.tv, if you do leave a message, and I'll get right back to you. Don't forget the AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from folks that you know and you trust. For more information, visit maplegrovepartners.com. Sarah Fresh, as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, is going very, very well, and that's working out. Boy, HelloFresh has been sending us all kinds of come back. We'll give you a whole bunch of things for free. So maybe that's a strategy if you're on HelloFresh and you're going to take some weeks off. Don't just turn it off, actually quit, and then they'll send you some coupons to come back. And maybe you can get some free meals out of the deal as well. I'm not using that code anymore, so you don't have to use it either, but it's worked. We're making the switch over to it as well. Don't forget, if you're going to buy through anything through Amazon, just go to theaverageguy.tv first. Click on the button, the Amazon on the right-hand side. You'll see it's in red. Click on that. It'll pass you through, and that benefits the network. And Tony, I am sorry to say John is not here. Yeah. Well, it's okay. I'm sure he's doing very important things. So very important. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. Thanks for coming out. For those of you who joined us live, thanks for coming out. Hopefully it wasn't too painful on my own solo. I'm getting a little bit better at this. I don't always enjoy it, but I had a good story to tell tonight. Hopefully it made sense. Many of you stayed around till the end, so I hope we did okay. I'll stay around for a little bit of post show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. Thanks, friends. Thanks for coming out tonight. Yeah, Ken says battery specialers seem like the robot lawn mower analogy in this case. Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest. I would really like a whole house battery backup. Um, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Brian. Brian says enjoy the useful info on tech when power's out for an extended time. Yeah, listen, if you don't ever lose power, I then I wouldn't worry about it. We lose it all the time, and extended power outages about every 5 years, so 3 or more days about every 5 years, and then once a year we're out for less than 24 hours. The last short power outage we had, by the time I got the generator set up, it came back on. It was an hour, and you're like, so now I wait a little bit. The battery will get the computers through, and we just wait, see if it's going to come back on. If it doesn't come back on within the first 30, then we start setting stuff. Up. So Brian, appreciate that. Tony says power was out on the other side of town today with the rain and wind. Yeah, it can. Joe said when our AC went out, we ran a portable unit. Yeah, now I'm not sure what to do with it. Yeah, I'd loan it out, have it available for others. Like I said, I think the Mr. Cool unit, I'm probably install in the window every summer and have it available there just so it's there. And then if we need extra cooling for whatever reason, just turn it on. It's a pretty handy unit to have, and it would augment what we currently have pretty well. Joe says it worked well for one room. He says we have one of those Midea. Is that Midea? I think is how we're pronouncing it. Split units in the she shed. That would actually, for me, be, Joe, to another. I have a 5,000 BTU air conditioner out in the shed right now. Window unit. It's not in a window. I just cut a hole in the side of the shed, put wood in there, and then installed it, in that way. Well, it works well. If that goes bad, or, it really only gives me 10 degrees. So if it's 100, I'm at 90. If we're at 90, I'm at 80. You get it, right? Well, 90 to 80 is pretty comfortable, especially if I sit right in the the breeze of it. It's actually very, very tolerable. If it's 80 and it's 70, doesn't have to work very hard. This is double that and would be another easy install, right? For that, I could build a bracket for it on either side and just close it in, seal it off. And this would make a great shed for the shed I have. This would make a great air conditioner. It might run actually more efficient than the 5,000 BTU and get me twice as much, which is crazy for less power. So that may happen too. Like I may swap them out. Now the 5,000, I thought about at one point of pulling that out of the shed and bringing it in the house and putting it in a window, but it smells like cigars. So it was like, that's the rusty nail out there. So I didn't. I was like, no, I don't want to bring that in the house. It stinks. So I don't think that would have had the wife acceptance factor. She doesn't mind too much, but Brian says he's down in Arizona. We're experiencing a bit of a monsoon storm at the moment. My hope is his power doesn't go out as well. Yeah, me too. I think if I lived in some of those situations now where we didn't have the extended power outages that we have, but they were just minor, I would probably do something like a battery backup situation. I wouldn't try to back up the whole house, but I would definitely, again, for me, this AC 180, the Blue Eddy AC 180, it's more than powerful enough and you guys know I have a, metric ton of monitors in here. Runs those just fine for an hour, easy. And if I turn some of them off, even longer. So, um, yeah, some of them will do heat via heat pump as well. You're right on. Yeah, you can get some of these units. In fact, Joe, for the shed, I actually looked at a mini split heat pump at one point because today we heat the shed with a propane Mr. Heater, Big Buddy Mr. Heater, I think is what it is. Um, Works great. It's perfectly fine, but I could also use a heat pump for that. I could use a mini split. It's about 2,000 for the mini split. That seemed like a little bit of an overkill for the shed. If I did do something like that, I'd probably insulate it a little bit better, right? But that would be an option as well. I actually find on the shed side, we put insulation in the roof. I can now bring it up 60 degrees with the heat. So if it's 20, I can get it to 80. Now that's it's like a little carried away, right? I don't need it that hot. That's full blast, hot, everything closed up. Generally 40 degrees is super comfortable. It was -10 one night when we were out there, and we got it, so whatever, 50 degrees in there, whatever that is. That's still pretty comfortable. I mean, we had jackets and stuff on, but that got it there when we needed it. So the heat is the easy part for us, bringing that heat up in. I'm wondering if propane would be a little more efficient. That's what it runs off of. Propane would be a little more efficient than a heat pump in that situation. So I kind of like where I'm at now. And like I said, I think if that air conditioner goes out, or maybe I'll swap the one I have if for that one, or just keep it as a backup. Once I put it in the shed and I start using it out there, then I don't have it available to me in an emergency, you know, type deal. And we have enough of those. It's handy to be able to run some air off a 110 instead of having it be 220. So, um, Tony says when I did HVAC while I was in college, we were replacing a system in the crawl space in eastern NC, North Carolina, during the summer. In the house, we could hear the wife giving her husband heck about it being hot in the house. Yeah, it's not comfortable. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes being I warm. I was we were having dinner with the I was having dinner with the girls, and at one point I said, "How did before air conditioning? How do people live out here?" Like growing up in California, San Jose, pretty soft, right? Never gets hotter than 90, never gets cooler than 30. It was easy. Yeah, we had a furnace. We didn't even have air conditioning. I mean, it was easy. I was just kind of wondering, how do people live before? How did they? And they didn't. They died. They died from heat exhaustion and being cold. I mean, it was terrible. So, um, yeah, I don't. It's not preferable. When I was wiring up the furnace on Friday afternoon, I was wiring up the furnace to get it plugged in. I had a fan blowing on the desk here, which was super comfortable. But I should have taken the fan over to the furnace over there to do that. Just got all sweaty while I was over there. Just like, it's miserable. Just like, oh, this is awful. So nobody likes it. Being cold for some people is even less tolerable, so you gotta kind of have those things thought out. One of the drawbacks, we just live in an old neighborhood, and I like it. I love my neighborhood, but these things happen. For a while, we had a transformer that was blowing all the time. We'd be without power for 8 hours till they came out and put the new transformer in, and uh, eight's pretty easy to overcome, you know. And now, in theory, I could, that air conditioner set up, I could run the generator. I can just wheel it around back, fire it up, run a cord in to it, fire it up, and it'd be ready to go pretty easily. I'll be honest, the other one more thought I had on that, now that I've got this super efficient split, cooler window unit, is use solar for it. So put some solar panels on the front porch during the summer. Not necessarily mount them on the roof, but put them on the porch. We got plenty of room out there. And let them run that air conditioner in the day when the sun is hitting it. And then when at night when it just shuts off and the house air conditioner takes over. That's basically free cooling, right? It would augment the house air conditioning during the day when it's the hottest and shut off at night when it was cooler. Seems like a smart idea. So I don't know. That may be maybe something I try. The panels are getting really good. I mean, a couple these 375s, these 400, they're 400, but they're really 375. Pretty good panels. They're not terribly expensive. You're probably talking another $400 or $500 be able to do something like that. I think I would need at least 400 watts. I need to check the actual draw. I'm going to put a kilometer on that thing and see what the draw is on it, but that would work. Joe says, when our AC went out, I made the mistake the first night of opening windows and turning on the attic fan. I woke up at 2 a.m. wet and 95% humidity. Yep. Yeah. I opened a window. It got cool one of the evenings and I opened the window, and that probably wasn't a good idea. Let all that humidity in. Tony says we're at the Lake of the Ozarks up there in Missouri this weekend. So hot there. Reminded me a lot of Texas. Yeah. If you were at Lake of the Ozarks this last weekend, Tony, it was hot, friend. Yeah, it was hot. Joe says the only thing worse than hot is hot and wet. And that is for sure. Tony says, I bet that seemed like a good idea at the time. It does until it isn't, type deal. That is for sure. High humidity. And I learned from Ed, it's really the dew point that is the good indicator. Like anything above 70 on the dew point is pretty wet. So, Joe says we camped in the she shed the rest of the night. In theory, I could have taken a cot out to the old Rusty Nail and slept out there if I wanted to. Stay cool. No, not going to sleep out there. Mars taking off, and I think I am too. Guys, thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate you listening to me ramble on. You give me some good thoughts, some new thoughts to think about as well. Thanks for being with me through it all. Be back in 2 weeks. I'll have Uyghur, and then we'll take it from there. Have a good evening. Keep the power on if you can, and if you lose it, get a generator, something. Have some plans, and stay safe. Have a good weekend. We'll see you guys here in 2 weeks. Take care, everybody.